Imagine waking up one day with a beautiful waifu who has cat ears and a tail. I know it's pretty random, but what if I told you that the protagonist has no charm whatsoever? And it's not all good news, as it turns out she's from another planet and is now highly sought after. The story begins with the Japanese Navy being attacked by an unknown ship. This puts a girl named Momiji on high alert. She has to stop them, so she suits up in a custom-fitted outfit and heads towards the enemy. Once on the ship, she exchanges gunfire with the merciless criminals attacking her. Thanks to her suit, the bullets don't affect her, and she easily disarms and defeats all the crew members. She checks the ship's cargo and discovers weapons and illegal substances. She heads to the bridge to take control of the ship, but finds the captain holding a bomb activation device. He threatens her not to come any closer. Feigning surrender, Momiji drops her weapon. However, she activates a power that makes guns appear in each of her hands. Taking advantage of the man's confusion, she shoots him, causing him to drop the activation device. But what no one expected was that at that very moment, a UFO-like object sped by near the ship. This caused a sudden jolt that made them fall to the ground. The man, seizing the opportunity while Momiji was down, grabs the device and activates it, causing an explosion that completely destroys the ship. Meanwhile, we meet a young student named Kio. He is at his grandfather's funeral, where he meets a beautiful but strange girl. She has cat ears and a tail. She tells him she's delighted with the delicious food, as she's never tasted anything like it before. This surprises Kio. It's practically impossible that she's never eaten something as common as meat. The girl introduces herself as Eris. In a hurry, Kio introduces himself and makes a small bow. In doing so, he can't help but notice her large attributes, getting very nervous about what just happened, and ends up unintentionally drinking some alcohol. Since he had never drunk before, he couldn't avoid losing consciousness due to how strong the alcohol was. When he wakes up the next day, he finds himself in his room, shocked that he passed out. Despite everything, he decides not to give it much thought and continues resting. Just as he turns and places his hand on the bed, he feels something soft and round. Not knowing what it is, he lifts the sheets and is left speechless by what he sees. The beautiful girl Eris was sleeping next to him. Moreover, she was only wearing a small shirt that left many things visible. Ahem, let's move on. Downstairs, someone arrives at the house. It's Manami, a childhood friend and neighbor of Kio. She starts interrogating Kio about the girl he brought home last night. Manami insinuates all sorts of naughty things they could have done all night. Kio, seeing this, tries to explain that nothing happened. It was just a misunderstanding. But she doesn't believe a word he says. They are interrupted by the arrival of Kio's teacher, Miss Itakazu, who had come to talk to Kio about the film club camp that would take place when classes resumed. The teacher, hearing everything Manami had said, asks Kio if it was true. He tries to deny everything, but that's when Eris appears in front of both of them. Seeing this, both the teacher and Manami accuse Kio of being a pervert for forcing a girl to wear cat ears and a tail for his own twisted purposes. Eris intervenes, explaining that Kio didn't force her. The ears and tails are completely real and belong to her. Manami and the teacher don't believe her words, but upon touching them, they realize she is telling the truth. Eris reveals that she is an extraterrestrial. The teacher is unwilling to accept this, but when she sees on the news that a spaceship was found a few kilometers away and that Eris had commanded the ship to move away from the humans who found it, she has no choice but to accept it. Exhausted from the impact of what they had seen, both the teacher and Manami leave Kio's house determinedly. Kio begins to ask Eris about her purpose for coming to Earth. She mentions that she was eager to make new friends and learn more about the planet. But while they were talking, something shocking happened. Manami had an entire surveillance setup at her house aimed at Kio's place. She could clearly observe them and even listen to their conversations. Manami contacted a blonde woman named Jack, offering her valuable information in exchange for being allowed to join the CIA with her. Jack accepted and was surprised to see that Manami had sent a photo of the girl she was looking for. But Manami hadn't acted strangely on her own. Miss Itakazu belonged to a secret organization tasked with ensuring that Earth had a beautiful first contact with aliens. Since Eris wasn't what she and her group had expected, they decided to eliminate her without leaving any trace of her existence to ensure a beautiful first contact. Kio, needing to deliver some things to a classmate, left Eris at his house and went to meet a sweet girl named Futaba. She shyly invited him to join her in renting some movies. However, they were interrupted by a guy who seemed to know Futaba and offered to take her home. Futaba agreed and bid Kio a kind farewell, but when she got into the car, we discovered that she is the girl with the alias Momiji, who had survived the explosion on the ship and was now assigned a new mission. The mission she was given was to eliminate both Eris for being an illegal alien and Kio for helping her by any means necessary. They did not want the rest of the world to discover Eris's Eris's existence. This assignment deeply shocked and saddened her. She didn't want to cause any harm to Kio. Of all the people, why did it have to be him? The organization to which the teacher belonged was getting ready. They couldn't allow someone as simple and ordinary as Eris to be their first contact. It was expected to be shocking, something truly out of the ordinary, not a girl dressed in cosplay who looked practically the same as humans. Meanwhile, Eris explained to Kio that she came from a planet called Kadia, and her mission was to explore Earth and establish international agreements with Japan. Therefore, she needed to learn as much as possible about its culture. Eris took the opportunity to thank Kio for all the help he had provided her. Nervously, she began unbuttoning her shirt, stating that since she didn't have any money, she would repay his favors with her body. Kio, blushing, stopped her and asked what she meant. She explained that she had found a manual under his bed, which explained that a woman's body could be used as payment. They had found Kio's forbidden magazines. Even more embarrassed, Kio explained that it wasn't like that it was just a fiction magazine and nothing in it should be taken seriously. Eris, hearing this, felt relieved, as it was her first time doing something like this and she was still very young. The next day, Eris showed Kio some small robots she called assistant droids. They were robotic assistants ready to help their owners in any way and would cooperate with Eris in her mission. They went to the library together and stayed there all day. By the time they finished, it was already getting dark. Manami, who had been keeping a close watch on them the whole time, reported that they had started to move. On the other hand, Futaba was given the signal to attack. But at that very moment, the teacher's colleagues appeared, masked and armed, surrounding Eris and Kio. Seeing this, they ordered Futaba to wait a little longer. The person who seemed to be the leader of the organization threatened Eris, telling her she had to leave, that for the sake of humanity they would not accept her contact. Eris kindly asked about what was happening and about their organization. The leader took this as mockery and pointed a weapon directly at her face to finish her off once and for all. Kio didn't hesitate to stand in front of Eris to protect her, but the leader hit him hard, knocking him to the ground and aimed to finish them both off. Futaba couldn't resist any longer and came to Kio's defense, attacking the members of the organization, disarming them and leaving them incapacitated. Despite everything, she didn't forget her mission and started attacking Eris. Eris did everything possible to dodge her attacks and managed to get away from her. Futaba, determined to kill her, was about to follow when Kio grabbed her by the leg, pleading with her to stop. Futaba, who was about to attack but realized it was Kio, stopped immediately and decided to abandon the mission for good. She wasn't willing to harm him, but taking advantage of the commotion, the remaining members of the organization attacked Kio and Eris. Both fell to the ground, and just before Kio lost consciousness, he managed to see Manami taking Eris away. When Kio regained consciousness, he found himself in his uncle Yuichi's car, who had managed to rescue him. Seeing that Eris was not with them, he realized what was happening and without any doubt decided he was going to rescue her. He called Manami and asked where Eris was. He didn't want excuses or lies. Feeling guilty, Manami confessed everything and explained where Eris was being held. Yuichi was fully willing to help Kio, so they headed to the organization's hideout and threatened to expose them if they didn't help rescue Eris. Together, they went to the military bunker to save Eris. She was locked in a capsule and asked one of the people there why they had to kill her. If they didn't want contact, they only had to reject the contract. But she noticed a peculiar smell surrounding that human and realized it was the canines, a species with which cooperation was forbidden according to the Intergalactic Federation. Upon reaching the bunker, Kio's uncle wanted to distract the guards, so he threw a bomb toward the bunker and then fled in the truck to get them to chase him, while Kio went to help Eris. Meanwhile, Futaba and Manami were heading to the bunker to help Kio, as they felt guilty for everything that had happened. Eris took advantage of the commotion caused by the bomb and, with the help of her suit, broke out of the capsule and began fighting the people holding her. When Kio managed to reach where Eris was, he saw that everything was completely destroyed and that Eris had defeated those who were there. Eris was very excited to see that Kio had come to rescue her, as she did not expect such help. Futaba and Manami managed to catch up with Yuichi, who was almost caught by the guards. They saved him, and upon learning that Kio had already rescued Eris, they headed to the rendezvous point to escape together. Just as the helicopter they were going to escape in was arriving, military tanks appeared and fired at it, destroying it. Eris seemed unconcerned, and with the help of her assistant droids, they went to destroy the tanks. Everyone was shocked to see that they were able to do so thanks to the advanced technology that Eris's species possessed. The entire incident ended up being covered up by the government as a fire. They didn't want the event to be revealed to the public. Eris thanked Kio again for putting himself at risk and rescuing her. Additionally, a bit nervous but happy, she mentioned that her first mating season would arrive soon and asked if he would like to be her partner. He couldn't help but blush, but just before answering, he was interrupted by Futaba and Manami, who alerted him that there was a huge spaceship just outside his house. A little alarmed, they went to investigate. It turned out to be the Mothership where Eris's companions were. After reading the report she had sent, they became very interested and decided to go meet with the government to improve the relationship they had, ultimately achieving an interplanetary contract. Captain of Eris, named Kun, wastes no time and takes charge of trying to formalize diplomatic relations with Japan. However, due to cultural differences, some inconveniences arise. Despite everything, Japan allowed them to stay legally and will cover all their expenses, as they are their honored guests. They thanked and informed that their stay there would be approximately 2 years. The government of Japan did not expect their stay to be so long. They did not agree with this, so they requested more time to think a little more about what they had discussed in the meeting. Upon leaving, Captain Kun feels extremely embarrassed and asks Eris if she was completely sure that the clothes they were wearing were suitable for the meeting. Each of them is wearing only a small school swimsuit. Kio, upon learning this, insists to Eris that the magazines he hid under his bed were only fiction and she shouldn't pay attention to everything she saw there. At that moment, Manami and Futaba entered Kio's house, along with their suitcases. They were saying goodbye because of the betrayal they committed by leaving their missions and helping Kio. They had to hide to avoid being captured and killed. This impacts Kio. He didn't want this to happen to them, so he asks the girls from the Mothership to see what they could do to prevent this from happening. The captain didn't have many options since she hadn't signed a proper contract with Japan. However, by living in Kio's house, they had turned it into the embassy of their country, Kutia. Therefore, as long as Manami and Futaba were there, no one could attack or harm them without breaking Kutia's rules. And if they did, they would be breaking the laws and could even cause a war. With the decision made, Eris, Manami, and Futaba would stay to live with Kio for a while, and the other girls would return to the Mothership waiting for any report Eris would send them. On the other hand, we can see that the individuals who had kidnapped Eris did indeed have contact with the alien race of the canines. They couldn't afford to lose the benefits they had gained on Earth, so they would take care of eliminating the cats without hesitation. After a long and exhausting day of moving, Manami and Futaba decide to take a bath together, getting to know each other a little more and talking about their feelings about Kio. Futaba really liked Kio, and although Manami denied feeling the same, deep down, Futaba knew she was lying. In addition to this, Futaba explained to Manami that she had a special power. She could make any object within a range of about 50 meters appear in her hand. Manami was surprised, even more so when she learned that this was the reason why Futaba was abandoned by her parents. At that moment, the assistandroids detected intruders. Without wasting time, Manami and Futaba, completely naked, got out of the bathtub to grab their weapons and capture the enemies. The intruders tried to steal 2 assistandroids and had started to flee in a car, but Manami and Futaba managed to corner them with the help of a motorcycle. However, before they could capture the intruders, they set off a flash grenade to escape, but they couldn't take the assistandroids with them. After the commotion, just before going to sleep, Manami decides to help Futaba conquer Kio. She wanted to support her, and Futaba was grateful and happy for this. The next day, Eris offers everyone a job at the embassy as special security forces. Just at that moment, Manami receives a call from Jack. She informs her that she discovered that another organization was after Eris and that, from now on, they had to be more careful and improve security. The new organization that is after Eris is called Cat's Paws. They are a religious cult that completely adores and loves cats. The reason they are going after Eris is to turn her into their god and worship her completely. Futaba, who was in her room, receives a gift. It was 2 assistandroids. Apparently, the Mothership had sent everyone their own assistants to help them with whatever they needed. On the other hand, Dr. Durell, who is part of the crew, announces that Eris had entered her heat cycle, making her susceptible to certain stimuli. But luckily, Kio was there to mate with her. Manami protests the situation, stating that Kio was too young for such things. Someone's jealous. Nervous, Kio decides to escape from this situation, but Eris is sure that he only wants to do it with him. The doctor also informed that everyone had a new mission. They had to go to Japan at that moment to conduct an investigation. The canines, upon discovering that the cats were heading to Tokyo, flew there to try to finish them off once and for all. The mission wasn't what they expected. In reality, the place where they were going to gather information was just an anime convention. But despite everything, they bought many things that caught their attention. While waiting for the train to leave, a little sad for even spending money they didn't have, Futaba realized that they had fallen into a trap. So, while the others boarded the train, she went to investigate what was happening. However, this was exactly what the organization Cat's Paws had planned. The train was attacked with gas that managed to render Eris unconscious. Manami was shot, and taking advantage of her being on the ground, they took Eris and Kio. Futaba realized that something was wrong, so she hurried to go by motorcycle to the car where they had taken Eris and Kio. She managed to disarm 2 girls, but a third attacked her from behind, throwing her out of the train. This allowed the kidnappers to escape. They had to rescue them, so Manami and Futaba began to prepare for their mission. They wouldn't fail to get them back. Kio and Eris wake up in an unknown room where they are informed that they are on a boat and that Eris is considered their god. Eris is shocked by this, but despite everything, she tries to take advantage of the situation to get them released. Since she is their god, they should obey her. Unfortunately, that didn't work. The cult's founder, named Antonia, had already anticipated that this could happen and ordered that they not be let go. Resigned, Kio and Eris begin to think about what to do. The canines were closely watching. They were waiting for an opportunity to eliminate the cats and their new followers. When they were alone in the room, Eris activated her suit to try to escape. But being in heat, the suit had blocked the systems because, during that period, individuals of her species usually did not make rational decisions. After encountering some problems, Futaba and Manami managed to get a boat to approach the ship, but they were quickly detected by the enemy, who began to shoot at them. They began to fight back without hesitation, managing to dodge the shots and defend themselves as best as possible while getting closer and closer to the ship. Unexpectedly, the ship also came under attack from an unknown enemy, the canines, who began to enter the fray. Finally, Futaba and Manami managed to board the ship. Meanwhile, Kio and Eris had the idea of putting Eris's suit on him. Since he wasn't in heat, it should work properly. Taking advantage of the functioning suit, they broke through the wall and began to move. Futaba went to the ship system to stop it. When she was attacked by a woman wearing the same suit as her, she did not allow this to distract her much and began to defend herself. Knowing the weaknesses of her enemy's suit, she managed to deactivate it. She discovered that it was a woman with dog ears. This woman, upon being defeated, ordered missiles to be fired in her direction. Because of this, Futaba was gravely injured. Manami managed to reunite with Kio and Eris, but just then the founder appears with her servants and begins to threaten them. But Kio manages to reason with her, showing that what she really wanted and needed were friends. Antonia apologizes for everything she put them through and offers to help them escape in her plane as compensation. One of the assist droids informs them that Futaba was unconscious and needed help. Since there was very little time left, the girls headed for the plane while Kio went to find her. When he finds Futaba, he runs at full speed towards the plane, and just before the ship sinks, he manages to jump and save himself. Futaba was very happy. She never thought they would come for her and was truly grateful. The Mothership confirmed that it was the canines who were behind everything. They had illegal dealings with some organizations on Earth, so Eris needed to be more careful from now on. That morning, Kio asked Eris to accompany him to his film club, where they were going to shoot a movie about aliens and wanted her to participate. Excited, she agrees. Meanwhile, Futaba was teaching Manami some shooting techniques in the yard, but due to the noise, Kio scolded them and told them that it would bother the neighbors. Resigned, Manami stopped practicing, but she advised Futaba to learn how to cook to surprise Kio. Unfortunately, this wasn't something our dear girl was good at. Everything she touched turned to charcoal. Chaika, one of Eris's companions, seeing that they needed a place to practice, took them to a virtual room on the ship. This would provide them with everything they needed, making it seem completely real. Futaba transformed her area into a kitchen and asked for a clone of Kio to help and accompany her. On the other hand, Manami requested an area to practice her shooting with all kinds of weapons. She also asked for a clone of Kio to help her lift the heavier weapons. Manami took advantage of the opportunity since Kio was exactly like the real one, so she asked him what he thought about the three of them. Kio confessed that he did have feelings for her, but when he thought that Jack was a man and also her boyfriend, he decided to give up. This made Manami frustrated and regretful for never having confessed her feelings to Kio. Upon arriving home, Manami discovered that the holograms couldn't think the same way as the real Kio, and they only said what the person wanted to hear. This made her feel a bit down, but she understood it, although she still clung to the hope that it could be real. Summer vacation has ended, therefore, classes begin as usual, or so it was thought. Eris had enrolled in the same high school as Kio and the others, but not just her. Antonia also joined the school to make friends and share new moments with Eris. During break time, the president of the film club approaches Kio to talk to him about the upcoming camp they will soon have. This catches Eris's attention, and she is invited to participate by joining the club. Not to be left behind, automatically, Antonia also joins to follow Eris. Meanwhile, Manami couldn't allow Eris and Kio to spend more time alone, so she immediately made sure they were included in the club along with her and Futaba. They arrived at the beach where the camp would be held. Everyone was very excited, and they had an amazing day. Thanks to Antonia, they didn't have to spend anything and had all the comforts. Kio and Futaba take a moment during dinner and step away. While they were alone in the moonlight, Kio begins to tell Futaba that she is the one and that he couldn't ask anyone else. With her heart pounding and completely flushed, she waits for Kio to finish, but what he says hits her like a blow. Kio just wanted Futaba to teach him how to fight. Futaba asks for a moment alone. She was really frustrated because she had believed that he was going to confess to her. Eris at that moment appeared. After talking, she managed to comfort Futaba a little, but their conversation was interrupted by a young, unknown girl. The girl introduced herself as Ichika. She warned them that apparently Kio was in trouble. They didn't hesitate and went to him, but Ichika stopped Futaba, not allowing her to go. While Futaba and Eris were talking, they had started to attack the camp. They were stealing all the technology they could find there, including the assist droids. This was the work of the canines. Just as they were about to attack Eris and Kio, Futaba appeared with seals attached to her body and was able to defend them. Ichika had given them to her to help her during the fight. After a tough fight, they managed to withstand the attack. However, the camp had not been left in the best possible condition. Apparently, the canines had stolen technology to rebuild their own robots, since, unlike the assist droids, they cannot regenerate themselves. Kio emphasized to Futaba that what he had asked her was serious. He wanted to become stronger to be able to defend himself and others without risking anyone's life. He was completely determined. Futaba finally agreed to train Kio. For this, they went back to the virtual room to train properly without harming anyone. Futaba handed Kio a weapon. However, this one doesn't harm organic beings, it only destroys inanimate objects. This way, he can practice without worries. Meanwhile, Eris talks to Ichika at Kio's house. She explains to her that the seals use spiritual energy. It's very advanced technology that could be mistaken for magic. The canines aren't very happy with their defeat, but since it didn't cause them too much damage, they weren't concerned about that. What they did get was a bit more information about new weapons their enemies are wielding. They're trying to investigate the strange seals that helped their defeat so easily. The canines would use any possible information to prevent the cats from making any deals with the Earth. Futaba and Kio continued with their tough training, but they noticed that Manami was no longer with them. Furious, Futaba went to look for her. Manami was resting and watching TV. Futaba didn't like this at all, which led to an argument and ended in a big fight. So, to settle everything, they decided to have a duel. The loser would have to do whatever the other said. They went to the forest to begin. Both were armed, and the first one to incapacitate the other would be the winner of the duel. Futaba was upset because if Manami was equally careless in a real fight, they could kill her, and this worried her. And from Manami's perspective, she was upset that Futaba was slow and didn't understand her. She had only skipped training so that Kio and Futaba could have some time alone. After a fierce exchange of shots, both ended up facing each other, aiming at each other. But Futaba had run out of ammunition, which allowed Manami to win the duel. Manami only ordered her to stop calling Kio by his last name and to call him by his first name, like everyone else, so that Futaba could be a bit closer to him. But Futaba asked her if that didn't bother her, since she knew that Manami still had feelings for Kio. But before she could answer, they narrowly dodged a sniper bullet. Seeing themselves under attack, they devised a team plan, and with great skill synchronization, they easily captured their attackers who had been sent by the canines. Due to this collaboration, they managed to understand each other better and make amends. The first assistandroid created by the cats was recovered from a failed mission and will be sent to Earth to get to know it and explore it. Eris asks Kio to talk to the assistandroid about Earth and everything in it so that it feels welcomed. When it finally arrived on Earth, everyone was eager to welcome it. When they saw it, they were extremely surprised. It was completely different from the new models of assistandroids and was practically identical in appearance to Eris's race. It introduced itself as Lori. Eris seemed a little uncomfortable with its presence, but Kio couldn't understand why. Eris went out to buy some things, and Kio stayed talking with Lori for a while. He was curious about why it was so different from the new assistandroids. Lori explained that by looking almost identical to its creators and by speaking, many began to dislike them, which affected how they were used and treated. Kio, despite everything, managed to understand a little of what Lori meant. When Eris arrived, Lori took the opportunity to ask them both to accompany it for a walk around. While Lori enjoyed watching the night sky, Kio wanted to ask Eris what was going on and if she didn't like Lori. Eris explained that it wasn't that, it's that she felt guilty because her ancestors had treated assistandroids like Lori in a very cruel and ruthless way, even sending them to suffer in war. Even though she didn't directly do it, she felt very affected by that and believed that Lori must hate her in some way for what happened. Seeing her concern, Kio offered to talk to Lori to fix the situation. So Kio spoke with his teacher to ask her to take them to the beach. She reluctantly agreed, but while they were in the car, Lori told Kio that Eris shouldn't feel guilty for what happened, that everything had been left in the past and she harbored no resentment. This calmed Kio, and when they arrived at the beach, Lori was very happy, remembering his old master, as he had traveled through space alone to get to know Earth. But due to an unfortunate accident, he never succeeded. The reason Lori had come to Earth was to do all the things his master wanted to do on Earth, thus fulfilling his wish. Satisfied now, Lori decided to return. By not choosing a new master, he didn't have much time left, but he was happy for everything he had seen and enjoyed. It was already Christmas on Earth, so Captain Kun prepared a mission called Operation Santa Clausy, which involved delivering a gift to Earth. The captain went to Kio's house to give him his gift in advance. It was a collar similar to the ones they used. When activated, it revealed a fully equipped suit that would help Kio when he had to fight. He was very grateful for this gift. Meanwhile, the canines were preparing a major move to attack the cats and end them. Futaba showed Manami the gift she had bought for Kio. Manami was disappointed. It wasn't romantic at all. She told Futaba that if she continued like this, Eris would succeed in winning Kio over. However, Futaba wasn't affected. She was happy just to be able to share with him as she had done so far. Manami, upon hearing this, became upset. She explained that if Futaba let opportunities pass due to embarrassment, she would lose Kio and wouldn't be able to get him back. She had to give her all to be with him or she would never achieve it. As Futaba was about to reply, a truck was about to run them over. They managed to dodge it and tried to find out who was behind it, but the truck was remotely controlled. It reversed and managed to crash into Kio's house, destroying the wall. Enemy assistandroids invaded Kio's house and started shooting at them. Simultaneously, the mothership was also under attack. They had managed to breach the ship and the enemy assistandroids were already inside. The assistandroids were using seals like Ichikas. They were able to destroy every door that kept them away from the cats and, using sleeping gas, they managed to put the ship's guards to sleep. Additionally, the seals somehow managed to stop time on the ship and render the security girls paralyzed. They were getting closer to the control system. Kio, Eris, and Captain Kun had managed to dodge the attacks and headed up to Kio's room. But there, the captain was attacked and left unconscious. With her last strength, the captain handed Kio the most powerful weapon she had, her bell, which had multiple functions due to its advanced technology. The canines had achieved their goal. They took control of the mothership and set it on a course for Earth. In 2 weeks, if they didn't do something, the ship would crash into Earth, causing serious disasters. Kio's house was a mess and had been destroyed. Worse still, they didn't know how to solve the serious problem they had gotten into thanks to the canines. When they managed to contact some more girls from the ship who weren't immobilized, they discovered that the ship had a security system in which, if it didn't reduce its speed when entering a planet, it would be destroyed. But this would cause the death of all the girls on the mothership. The only way to stop the ship was by rebooting it, but only the captain in charge could give an emergency order to the ship to do so, and since Kun was unconscious, she couldn't do anything. When they were about to lose hope, Captain Kun's bell started to glow and float, and it placed itself around Kio's neck. That meant that from now on he would be the new captain of the mothership, so he could give the order even if Kun wasn't there. Hastily, Eris asked Antonia to help her get a rocket, since the order could only be executed when Kio was on the ship. Antonia didn't hesitate to help her and instantly went to get everything Eris would need. They went to talk to Ichika to find out about the seals the canines had used. She told them that they must have obtained them illegally and helped them by giving them special seals to cancel the ones they had used on the ship to stop time. Antonia mentioned that she couldn't get any rockets. Apparently, they were all being used. Under the influence of the canines, all countries were using them to try to destroy the mothership heading towards Earth. Luckily, Kio could create a rocket from scratch with the bell. All they needed was an engine, which Antonia was able to get. They headed to Russia, where the engine was located. At the Russian intelligence base, with the engine in hand, Kio began to slowly assemble the rocket with the help of the collar that he would use to reach the mothership. Although it was a bit difficult for him since he didn't know the design and elements a rocket should have, he tried. In the base, an intruder managed to enter and captured Kio as a hostage. Futaba found him but realized he was the leader of the bunker they had already fought. Using the same ruse, the man had placed bombs throughout the base and was ready to activate them. But thanks to Kuria's special bullets, Futaba disarmed him without injuring Kio. But more enemies were heading to the base. They only had 3 hours before they arrived. They had to build the rocket in that time or everything would have been in vain. So Kio, with his greatest effort and concentration, managed to build the rocket just before the enemies arrived. The rocket still needed refueling, so in the meantime, Antonia and the others at the base began attacking their enemies, delaying them long enough for the rocket to take off smoothly. But inside the rocket, emotions were overflowing. Manami tried to convince Futaba to confess her feelings, but she refused and insisted that Manami should also be honest with her own feelings. Eris tried to calm the situation, but only succeeded in making Manami explode. She began confessing her feelings for Kio and expressing how much Eris bothered her by interfering. She felt increasingly distant from Kio and couldn't deny her feelings for him any longer. anger. Understandingly, Eris understood both Minami's and Futaba's feelings. So, calmly, she offered for the three of them to be Kio's lovers, leaving them completely surprised by this proposition. Finally, the ship was fully refueled, so they took off heading towards the mothership. When they were already in space, a canine ship started attacking them. It wanted to destroy them, so they couldn't help anyone. Thinking it was their last chance, the three took the opportunity to show Kio their feelings by kissing him. Then, they sprang into action and began suiting up to go out into space to defeat the enemy ship while Kio did his best to get into the mothership. With the girls attacking the canine ship and keeping them occupied, Kio finally managed to enter the mothership and, with the help of the assist droids, distributed the seals given by Ichika so that the crew members could regain their mobility. Kio made it to the computer room where he had to give the order for the ship to reboot. But when he gave the order, it wasn't accepted. The ship didn't recognize him as a Catian inhabitant, so it wouldn't follow his command. But one of the crew members came up with the idea for Kio to change his DNA and become a Catian, using the bell. Without hesitation, Kio tried it, as this was his last hope. Eris and the others continued fighting against the canine ship. It was tough, but they did their best to destroy it. When they finally managed to destabilize it, the three of them joined forces to launch a powerful attack, which ultimately destroyed the ship. However, the canine space base, upon being hit by the destroyed ship, was going to crash into Earth. So Futaba and Manami set out to increase the speed at which the ship was falling. Upon entering the atmosphere, it would burn up and cause no damage to the planet. However, with their suits in poor condition, they wouldn't survive. Just when they thought they were going to die, they heard Kio's voice. He was approaching them with a spaceship alongside Eris, who managed to catch them and get them to safety. When they saw Kio, they were surprised. He had become a Catian, but thanks to this, he had managed to reboot the mothership. When they returned to Kio's house, he said that he would soon return to normal and be human again. Just then, they saw a device in the sky. This was a Christmas gift from the planet Kodia to Earth. The device would help bring humans into space without the need for a rocket, thereby enhancing their relationship with Earth and finally reaching an agreement between both planets.